Good evening. Welcome back to Allergic to Stupidity. Yes, I have my hot cuppa, but my boys brought me French fries at the same time. Tonight's little conversation or thoughts that are going out there. It's as I'm listening to the great plans that Donald Trump's got and things that are happening down south in 3 days it's happened, is how scared everybody is. And it made me start to think, what are we really afraid of? And that brought me to something else. Is that is the LGBTQ community. Why are we so afraid of them? They're not sitting there with guns on their shoulders, or their hips. They just want to live their life the way they are. And it's one of those things that has bothered me for eons because it is a form of, well, it is not even a form. It is blatant discrimination when we sit there and say there's something wrong with you. But so what? And some people like to say, well, this is new. No, it's not. How many 100 years ago, did two old bachelors live together? I mean, they just never found a spouse, so they're sharing accommodations. Yep, they're sharing accommodations. It's not a big deal. 10 years ago, when I lived in the far north, there was two female teachers, and they shared the same apartment. And one had never been married, and one had been married and left her husband from southern Ontario for reasons never explained. That those two women lived happily together. And it was like, oh, well, they're just sharing accommodations. That was the excuse. What are we so scared of? They're not hurting you. What difference does it make? Why do we have to worry about it? They're just happy. Is that not what's important? They were both good people. They were both solid teachers. Some kids didn't like teacher A, but I newsflash from somebody who's been in the industry for eons. Some teachers are those teachers that the kids either love them or hate them. There's no happy in between for some teachers. And they accept it. That's who and what they are. But both of those teachers were really solid teachers. And why would nobody said boo? Mrs. A, Mrs. B lived together. So what? And I just find in the last couple of years, everybody suddenly got, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, we're being wokey by it. All we're trying to do is say it's okay for them to be themselves. And I've always said, I don't care what you believe or what you do for a job or where you live, as long as your actions are not detrimental to yourself, others, or the environment. So do I have a problem with my kid smoking? Yep, I do. Why? Because it's hurting him. Do I have a problem with people who pollute? Yep. You're hurting the environment. Do I have a problem with bullies? Darn right, because you're hurting other people. But if you want to believe that there's gremlins living in the ground and those gremlins tickle your toes at night and it's not hurting anybody, then so what? But when we sit there and say there has to be something wrong with that person because he happens to be gay, so we have to get him treated for it. Well, one of the greatest minds during World War II was gay. He ended up committing suicide afterwards because the pressure for him to change and for the pressure for him to get castrated because there had to be something wrong with him sent him over the top, and he committed suicide because people couldn't just accept him for who he was and the way he was. And several years ago, I was teaching at a private school, because that's where I teach now, is at various private schools, contract by contract. And the first day in, the secretary came running in and she looked at a name and she said, that shouldn't say F, it should be M. He's trans. I went, yeah, okay, fine. And she just looked at me and said, yeah, I don't care. That's his name. And to be honest, they walked in And I had my class and I said, okay, I have no idea which one. I don't know who the kids are. So I started with his name. And yep, here. Honest to God, I couldn't have told you that that person was biologically a girl. Dressed like a girl, walked like a guy, talked like a guy. He wasn't the annoying grade 7, 8 boy. He was just a guy. And everything about him was a guy. And there was another trans boy in our school, a couple grades older. And he used to, all the high school kids used to pop by my room, but especially at lunchtime. And those two really broke up, got together, and just clicked because they're both in the same boat. Born female, more comfortable in a male body. And they enjoyed each other's presence. And actually, they're still together. They ended up starting to date, and I saw it coming a mile away because my student would say, oh, he's not interested, but he's really cool. He keeps popping around to make sure you're in the class. He's interested. Trust me, buddy. He's interested. And last I checked, they're still together. So, but neither one of them would have hurt a fly unless they're on the hockey ice, because they both played hockey. They wouldn't hurt a fly. So what? And in trying to grasp and understand, one of my girls said, I'm not trying to belittle, I'm trying to understand. She started the conversation that way, which was a wonderful way to start the conversation. And I said, it's really hard to understand. But let's put it this way. If you went shopping and you saw a coat that looked really nice and everybody said it looked really nice, and you tried it on and it just didn't fit right and it didn't feel good on you, and you looked at yourself and went, well, it's a nice coat, but I don't like the look of it. It doesn't make me feel good about myself. Would you buy it? And she went, no, of course not. Why would I waste my money on a coat that doesn't make me feel good? I said, okay. Now imagine you were born with the coat attached to you and you can't take that coat off because it's attached to your muscles. And my young man went, yeah. I said, it doesn't make you feel good. It doesn't make you feel good about yourself. But you can't take it off. You literally can't take it off. But what happens if you could have it altered and it would make you feel better about yourself? Would there be a problem with that? Any different than having a facelift? And she went, no. I said, but that's it. It's a little more complicated than that. Yes. But so what? You're going to tweak the coat that Mother Nature gave you, and it's going to make you feel better. And she went, okay, I get it. I said, because to be honest, and I pointed at my young man, he can't change the fact that his DNA says he's female. He can't change that. There's nothing he can do. But he can dress and present in a coat that makes him feel better. And my young man, that's exactly it. He said, yes, he agreed with me. It was a little more complicated than that. But he said, that's exactly what it feels like. It just feels like that coat that I was born with does not feel right. And I said, yeah, it's the closest analogy I can get. And so what? As long as the person is a good person and judged by his actions, then what difference does it make? So if you're going, oh my God, I want to ask you to ask yourself, what are you afraid of? Because it's not contagious. Somebody's lesbian, somebody's gay, somebody's bi, somebody's trans. It's not contagious here, guys. It's just the way they see the world and which way they feel better. And how many times a little girl's growing up and she's always wearing jeans and we go, oh, she's a tomboy. Nobody says boo about that. But if a little boy wants to play with dolls, oh, what's wrong with him? There's nothing wrong with him. Absolutely nothing. He wants to go in the kitchen and cook cookies. So what? How many James Oliver, Gordon Ramsay, all those famous cooks, they're all guys. They started out in the kitchen someday. They didn't suddenly turn 22 and decide, I'm going to be a chef. They were in the kitchen cooking with mommy and enjoying it. things that naturally we normally see as a female trait. But shit. The great designers, lots of them are guys. So what? They like designing. It's the way they're tweaked. It's the way they're brained. There's nothing wrong with it. So why do we have to be afraid of them? If you see somebody going down the street, and they happen to be down, trust me, there is nothing to be afraid of. But people go, oh, why? The happiest people I've ever met are downs. They always see the sun shining. They've always got a smile. They do get upset. I will. They do. But more times than not, they got a smile on their face. They're enjoying life. They've got the right answers. They're having a blast. So my question to you is, what are you afraid of? And why are you afraid of it? And it doesn't have to be about trans. But what am I afraid of? That I can't make the world a little bit better than it was when I came into it. And every day I do my little thing, my whatever, to try and make the world a little bit better. But when it comes to the LGBTQ community, guys, you have nothing to be afraid of. Literally nothing to be afraid of. I've worked with kids who are gay. I've worked with kids who are lesbians. A teacher colleague of mine, she's a lesbian and she's a Jew. Which, again, no thing, but I have asked her, I said, and how does the family deal, because they're Orthodox Jews. I said, how does the family deal with your living arrangement, sweetie? She said, we just don't talk about it. Everybody knows. And she's got kids. And she's like, yep, they've just learned to live with it, because there's nothing to be afraid of. She's happy. Her life partner's happy. What's your problem? There shouldn't be anything. So that's my thought for the day is, if it comes to the LGBTQ community, you have nothing to be afraid of. And if you are afraid and you're going, oh my God, there's something wrong, you need to look at yourself. And you need to ask yourself, what are you honestly afraid of? Because it sure ain't contagious. It's just a perspective. It's just a way of what turns them on and doesn't turn them on, or how they would feel better. So mine is, and if you see somebody dressed, they may have a very masculine body, but if they're dressed as a female, have the common courtesy to call them a she, especially if you're in retail and you don't know their first name. Ma'am, can I help you? You make them feel good. They may have a very masculine body and be very obviously biologically a male, but it's not going to kill you to say she. It'll make them feel good. There you go. Figure out what's really worth being afraid of. Like spiders, as much as some days, especially when I walk into a whole spider web, they're nothing to be afraid of. We don't have any poisonous snakes, spiders around my house. It's just icky things, nothing to be afraid of. Find the things that are worth being afraid of. Be afraid of them. And come up with a solution on how to solve it. So as we're listening for everything that's coming up from down south, Donald Trump has made JRK, I think those are his initials, Kennedy. Personally, I think he's an insult to his family, but that's besides the point. Head of health. And he is aiming to ban all vaccines and fluoride in the water and other things like this. What's he afraid of? Fluoride's been proven time and time again to help strengthen your teeth. That's a problem? I mean, fluoride water has been proven to strengthen your teeth. And nothing in the books, at least in Canada, says you have to, by law, have your vaccines. And I can vouch for that as a teacher, because if a parent comes in and says, my kid's not vaccinated, for what reasons, they literally just have to sign a form that said, for ethical reasons, my children are not vaccinated. And that's it. and you get to the end of grade 12, you have to prove you had such and such a vaccine. If for whatever ethical reasons you don't want your child to be vaccinated, you just have to sign a form. That's it. Just nobody pointing a gun at you to have the vaccines. The same thing came with COVID. Nobody was telling you had to have it. Like no governments were telling you to have it. Even the schools I was working at, they just asked me if I had it, and I went, yeah, I've had it. I didn't have to have it to work at the school. We all had to wear masks, which that's not a big deal. And we all had to work really, really hard to stay 6 feet apart to cut down the chances of the spread of the virus. Nobody had a gun to my head to tell me I had to take my vaccine. So what are you so afraid of? Literally. There's my thought for the day. Outside of my kids got me fries for supper. My fear is growing old with poor health. So what am I doing? I'm doing yoga every day. I eat properly. Trying harder to eat properly. Go for walks when I can. Decompress. Doing this honestly because I find this is very therapeutic to vent out my about whatever is happening, whatever I've seen. Taking the time for me. Mental health. All those things. Doing the things I love to do, plus the things I have to do, like dishes and cleaning the basement and blah, blah, blah. That's my fear. But I can do something about it. Am I going to end up being 150 in perfect health? Probably not. But I can do everything I can to get to 150 as healthy as I can. And yes, guys, my goal is 150. I don't want to live forever because the world will change too much. And I'll lose all those people that are important to me. But it's a goal. If I don't aim for the stars, I won't even make the moon. So let me aim for the stars. Okay? My true thing is to see Canada turn 200, which means I have another, 45 years. But I've said that since it turned 100. So there you go. Okay. So my question for you today is, what are you really afraid of? And is it worth being afraid of? Take care, guys. Have a good day.